The radio didn't come at the end of the lap, it didn't come after a mistake. It came in the middle of it, at full commitment, at a point where trust is everything. And what Lewis Hamilton said wasn't frustration. It wasn't even technical feedback. It was something far more revealing. He admitted he was slow because he didn't trust the car. At Japanese Grand Prix, a circuit where drivers carry over 280 kilometers per hour through blind direction changes, confidence isn't optional. It is the entire foundation of performance. And when a seven-time world champion says that foundation is gone, the question isn't about one session, it's about everything that comes next. Before we break this down, if you enjoy deep Formula One analysis like this, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Because how do you go from a podium to doubt in just one weekend? What happened during free practice at Suzuka did not look dramatic on the surface. There was no crash, no red flag, no catastrophic mechanical failure. But within a span of just a few laps, the entire narrative around Ferrari's weekend and potentially their season shifted. In FP1, the signs were subtle. Hamilton finished within a relatively competitive window, operating inside what appeared to be an acceptable margin to the front. The lap times suggested a normal adaptation phase, the kind every driver experiences when arriving at a circuit as technical as Suzuka. But the data told a different story. Corner entry instability began to appear early. The car resisted rotation, forcing repeated micro-corrections through the opening sector. Through the S's, one of the most rhythm-dependent sequences in Formula One, the flow was broken. Not dramatically, but consistently. And at Suzuka, consistency is everything. By FP2, the situation had escalated. Ferrari introduced setup changes aimed at recovering front-end grip, adjustments to aerodynamic balance, likely small shifts in ride height and front wing angle. On paper, the direction was correct. On track, nothing changed. The understeer remained, persistent, limiting. Every attempt to attack the lap was interrupted by hesitation. Then came the moment, a sudden snap, violent, unpredictable, through one of Suzuka's most delicate sections, a loss of rear stability that didn't just cost time, it disrupted control. And that's when Hamilton said it. "I'm very slow because I don't have confidence in the car." Not anger, not panic, clarity. Because in Formula One, when a driver loses confidence, lap time doesn't disappear gradually, it collapses. And what made this moment so significant wasn't the statement itself, it was the implication behind it. Because that wasn't the real story. To understand what Hamilton was feeling, you have to move beyond the radio and into the numbers. In FP1, Ferrari operated within what appeared to be a manageable performance gap, likely within a few tenths of the leading pace. On a circuit measuring 5.8 kilometers, that margin suggests competitiveness. It implies potential. But Suzuka doesn't reward averages. It exposes inconsistencies. The critical detail wasn't the overall lap time, it was where the time was being lost. Through high-speed sequences, particularly the S's and the approach to spoon curve, the deficit began to accumulate. Not in one corner, but across a chain of direction changes where front-end precision is essential. Each hesitation costs a fraction. 1/10 here, another there. And suddenly a competitive lap becomes a compromised one. By FP2, those small losses had compounded. Ferrari's adjustments failed to recover the front-end bite, meaning Hamilton was forced to carry less minimum speed into corners. That translates directly into lost exit momentum, and over a lap into multiple tenths of a second. But the most damaging number isn't measured in lap time, it's measured in confidence. At speeds exceeding 250 kilometers per hour through Suzuka's fast sections, the difference between commitment and hesitation is not linear. It's exponential. If a driver lifts by just a fraction, 2%, 3%, the resulting time loss can exceed half a second over a lap. And that's before considering tire behavior, because understeer doesn't just affect rotation, it increases front tire degradation, reducing grip even further over consecutive laps. That creates a feedback loop: less grip, less confidence, less performance. Ferrari tried to correct it, but each change appeared to shift the problem rather than solve it. And that leads to the most important numerical insight of all. The performance gap wasn't stable, it was fluctuating, which is far more dangerous than being consistently slow, because inconsistency means unpredictability, and unpredictability means a driver can't trust what the car will do from one corner to the next. And once that trust is gone, the numbers stop being data, they become symptoms. At the heart of this issue lies a deeper conflict, not just technical but philosophical. The Ferrari SF26 appears to operate within an extremely narrow performance window. In simple terms, the car works, but only under very specific conditions. When those conditions are met, the performance is there, the balance feels acceptable, the lap time is competitive. But step even slightly outside that window, and the behavior changes, abruptly. This is the core of Hamilton's struggle, because his driving philosophy has always been built on progressive trust. He leans on the front end, builds confidence through consistency, and increases commitment lap by lap. That approach requires predictability. The SF26 offers the opposite. The persistent understeer reported during practice suggests insufficient front-end downforce during critical phases of corner entry. To compensate, engineers can increase front wing angle or adjust mechanical setup. But every change introduces trade-offs. More front wing can destabilize the rear. Ride height adjustments can affect aerodynamic efficiency. Mechanical changes can compromise tire performance. This creates a domino effect. Solve one issue, create another. And at a circuit like Suzuka, where aerodynamic precision is non-negotiable, those compromises are amplified. The sudden snap Hamilton experienced is the clearest evidence of this imbalance. Because it reveals something more serious than understeer, it reveals inconsistency, a car that is stable in one phase of the corner and unstable in another. That's not a setup issue, that's a characteristic, and it's not new. Ferrari has shown similar behavior in previous high-load circuits, where downforce demand and directional changes expose weaknesses in aerodynamic balance, which raises a critical philosophical question. Is this a car that can be tuned into performance, or a car that fundamentally limits how a driver can extract it? Because if it's the latter, then the problem isn't temporary, it's structural, and that changes everything. What makes this situation truly significant isn't just what happened on track, it's how Hamilton responded to it. Because tone matters. And in that single radio message, there was no frustration, no emotion, no attempt to mask the issue, just a clear, controlled admission. I don't have confidence in the car. For most drivers, that might sound like a routine complaint. For Hamilton, it's something else entirely. This is a driver who has spent over a decade operating at the limit, managing cars at speeds beyond 300 kilometers per hour, extracting performance under pressure, adapting to different regulations and philosophies. Confidence for him isn't optional. It's fundamental, and when that confidence disappears, it doesn't just affect lap time, it affects decision-making. A driver without trust cannot attack braking zones with full commitment, cannot carry maximum speed into high-risk corners, cannot position the car precisely on corner entry. Every action becomes reactive instead of instinctive. And in Formula One, that shift is devastating. What's even more important is the timing. Hamilton arrived in Japan with momentum, a solid start to his Ferrari chapter, results that suggested adaptation was progressing. And then, within a matter of hours, that trajectory changed. Not because of pressure, not because of expectation, but because the car gave him no foundation to build on. That's what makes this moment psychologically significant. Because once doubt enters the equation, it lingers. Even if the car improves, even if the setup is optimized, rebuilding trust takes time, and time is something Formula One drivers rarely have. Which raises a deeper concern. If this is how the relationship between Hamilton and Ferrari begins to fracture under pressure, what happens when the stakes get even higher?